This week in Arsenal, the Gunners defeat Bournemouth 3-0. Manchester City keep winning matches. Gabriel Jesus may or may not be for sale. And a trip to Old Trafford looms. Let's get into it.
Maybe we'll have a good surprise for you.
Welcome in to This Week in Arsenal, episode 55. As always, I'm Sham. You can follow me on Twitter at Shamsdale. And with me, as ever, is the main man himself, Sash, who you can follow at LT Arsenal. Sash, how you doing, good sir?
I'm doing okay, apart from the fact that I have a bit of a neck sprain. So yesterday, I don't know, in my sleep, I must have been tossing and turning. And today, I woke up, I was not able to turn right. I was not able to turn left. But the important thing for this podcast is that I'm able to look straight. So yeah, let's get into it, Sham. But how's everything for you?
Yeah, good. Actually, it's funny. I had a neck strain myself a couple weeks ago. Um, I think that's probably the most surefire way for your body to um, remind you that you're getting older. So luckily that recovered in a few days. I hope that's the same case for you. Um, so we will be joined by Dharnish, who you've seen write for Sky Sports and the Busby Babe. Um, I think he does, really good tactical breakdown every week of a few matches. So he'll be joining us later to talk about Manchester United and our match against them over the weekend. I think he's having a couple technical difficulties right now, but um, you know, in addition to that, we've got the Bournemouth match to talk about, the fact that City keep on winning their matches, and some interesting transfer news as well. So we'll see if he can get back on and rejoin us. But um, just generally speaking, Sash, kind of what's your what did you make of the Bournemouth match, and kind of what are your key takeaways from that match on Saturday?
So I think Arsenal had a really professional performance. Thought we were exceptional in that first half. And for me, it was a bit of a shock how we were not, I don't know, 4-0 up in that first half. I think despite the chances we had, there were a couple of occasions where we could have conceded. I think William Saliba, the number of last ditch tackles that he's making has really gone under the radar. And I think he saved us again against Bournemouth. And he's been doing that all season. But I think all in all, it was a very professional performance by Arsenal. Yeah, I know the VAR decisions would be the talking point, but if you just ignore that and look at the football, Arsenal deserve to win the game. And that's what Bournemouth's manager also said after the game, that yeah, Arsenal better team, but I think also I feel a bit for Bournemouth, because if those VAR decisions were against us, I would be really angry about it. So I can understand their frustration, but let's not also like talk too much about those people who are saying Arsenal are getting lucky with VAR. That's not true. I think a lot of the times it's been us who have been the victims of a lot of these decisions. So I think personally, look at the football. Arsenal deserve to win. And I'm really happy that we managed to win that in the end. And I thought Declan Rice's goal at the end for me was the icing on the cake on what was a professional performance. The hunger of him to actually get into the minute it was when he's been going up and down the pitch all game, for him to have that hunger, desire to go there and to finish it. Good assist too by Gabriel Jesus, but I thought Declan Rice showed like why he can be a really good box-to-box player as well. And we also have to understand that players under Mikel Arteta, they evolve every season. Like Martin Odegaard, for example, I put out this tweet the other day. So in Odegaard's first season, the criticism was that he was very inconsistent. He had this one performance against West Ham when we came back from 3-0 down. People were like, wow, Odegaard's amazing. But then they were like, he only performed in that game. He didn't show any sort of consistency. But the next season, he became more consistent. Then people said this guy can't score goals and assists. Then the season after that, he gets you 15 goals in the league. And then they say, he doesn't step up in big moments. But this season, we're seeing throughout this run in that he's been one of our best players. And I think with Declan Rice as well, of course, nobody's criticizing him at all. But what I'm trying to say is that this is season 1 of Declan Rice. He's going to do some things which we didn't know he could do in the coming seasons. And I think what he showed with his run and that finish, I think it's very promising for us. And all in all, I think we can be very positive about that display. And finally, I also want to say that we are in game week. We're getting into game week 37 now. So we have not bottled the league this season, okay? Like whatever happens from here, after 37 game weeks, if you're toe to toe with the team that you're fighting the title against, for me, that's all I can ask as a fan, After that, whether you go over the finish line is down to a bit of luck and a bit of certain moments going your way. But this is all I can ask for as a fan. Game week 36, be that. And if we keep being that, one of these seasons, we will surely win the league. So I'm going into this next couple of weeks with a lot of optimism and excitement.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth was a potential banana skin of a game, and they're a really good side. There's been graphics and stats coming out recently showing that Bournemouth have really been outside of us and City and Liverpool and a couple other teams. I think Chelsea might also be up there right now. Bournemouth are one of the informed sides in the Premier League. They've been doing really well. They have a really good collection of players as well over there. Like Solanke and Semenyo and Kirkes as well. I think are really all interesting players. So it's nice for us to handle that in a professional manner, keep on putting the pressure on Manchester City. Unfortunately, they keep winning matches, but we just have to do what's in our control until the end of the season, which is keep winning games, and then hopefully City slip up and let us back into a situation where we can hopefully win the league. So we'll see what happens. I see Dharnish is still having a couple technical difficulties. But I'm just I've really been thinking about what constitutes a successful season for Arsenal in this regard, and I asked that question on Twitter earlier, and a lot of people responded with trophies, right? Win a major trophy, win the Premier League, win the Champions League, stuff like that. And that's not to say those things aren't important. They're really important. But for me, I think this season was about showing that last season wasn't a fluke at the end of the day. This season was really about improving as a
Reinforcing our
team.
position.
Sorry?
Reinforcing our position, basically.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Just establishing that base camp, right? And showing that us competing for the title last season wasn't just a best case scenario, but the standard, what we're aiming to do. So the fact that we're competing with City until the final weeks of the season, the fact that if we win both our matches, City will have to beat us on the final day of the season to win the title. For some people that's a consolation, and I understand that, but for me personally, I think that's progress. That's kind of the standard that we want to establish. And I think that marks a successful season if we can do that. So, while Dharnish is trying to get back in here and fix some of the connectivity issues he's having, I wanted to ask you because there's been some transfer news out and about this week, right? Team News and Ticks started a Patreon, and of course, everyone has been leaking everything on that Patreon.
It's no longer a Patreon; it's all on Twitter.
It was. I feel so badly for the guy because it, like, literally from the first thing he said, people were just saying, "Excuse me." But from his first Patreon post, people were just like, according to TNAT, like on his Patreon, this is what he said. So
No,
yeah,
people are posting the entire Patreon on Twitter and then having one tweet right at the end saying via TNAT, which is hilarious. But also, I feel bad for him that his news
yeah,
gets leaked
it
out
was really
like this.
funny because someone tweeted about that, and someone else responded, "You forgot the part where he said not to share this on Twitter." So yeah, that was interesting. Well, Darnish is back in, and so we'll get to the transfers maybe later on. But Darnish, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah, I've had to rush and hurriedly move to my phone because for some reason my laptop isn't agreeing with me today. But I wasn't going to let you guys down. So can you hear me and see me? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you're coming through
Yeah,
loud and clear.
yeah,
We
and
should
we
have
can.
just done this in the beginning. I could close my laptop now. But yeah, I'm good to be on with you guys.
Yeah, glad to have you on. And you know, just before we get going, you know, how's I feel so bad asking this question, but you know, how's everything going, you know, season wise, and you know how you guys doing these days?
That's a very evil question, too.
Honestly, it's incredibly depressing. It's incredibly depressing. I don't think outside fans realize how bad. I don't know. Do you guys realize how bad this season's been?
In a way, I mean, I think if you're watching, if you're from the outside looking in, I think you can only ever really get part of the picture in
Hmm.
terms of how bad a season can be. But it doesn't look great from what we've seen so far.
I don't know how much football you guys watch or how much Man United you guys watch, but it has been an atrocious season. It's been absolutely horrendous. I would honestly say we've had about. I'm not lying here. I'm not joking. 5 halves where we've had good performances, 5 halves where we've had good performances. That's
Mhm.
it throughout this whole season, which is simply diabolical. If somebody was to look at the results that we've gotten, even the 1-0s in winter, we were beating teams 1-0. We were beating like your Burnleys and teams that we should be beating anyway. But we were scraping past them. All the wins feel like they've been won by a nose hair, and we've just about deserved them apart from in January. Okay, I'll say this. There was a little period in January where Martinez came back for 4 games and the attack started clicking. I think that was our little best period of the season. But even then, it was chaos ball, and we were beating teams by a nose hair. But that was fun because we were like, oh, we've got an attack who can actually score goals now, and all we want to do is go punch for punch. And oh, we got hit down a couple of times, but it's okay. We can get back up and punch them back. But aside from that, it's the whole season to me has been Ten Hag trying to address the ridiculous injury list, and every time he has come up with a solution to it, or everything he's tried has failed atrociously. And then
Mhm.
on top, you have all the issues that we have had from last season, and the fact that teams have figured this out. So we use man marking. Teams have figured out how to exploit that. He's stuck with it. There's a he's added in this forward line press where all the attackers press, the midfielders don't join, neither do the defenders, which leaves huge gaps in the middle. There's issues from last season that he hasn't fixed, and there's issues fresh from this season, and it's just a ridiculous mess. Really, it's been a horrible season, and I can't wait till it's over.
Yeah, I guess like what do you put that down to outside of obviously like you said you guys have really long injury list. You know, Martinez has missed a big chunk of time. You know, now Maguire's out. You know, multiple midfielders. You know, Casemiro was gone for a little while. Bruno Fernandez, Rashford. You know, long list of guys who are really key for you have been unavailable. So I mean, do you do you put how this season has gone down to that, or is it Ten Hag's fault, or is it you know something else?
I think it's a mix of different reasons. Obviously, the injuries has been the big asterisk. Did I say that right? Asterisk
Yeah.
throughout the whole season that you have to put, but it's been it's a complex season to really go through because the first I think 4 games were when we didn't have injuries. They were still winning and the forward press was working. Then there was still problems with the forward press. Then after that, after I think Brighton, there was big injuries to deal with, and ever since that, I think just before the winter, he came out in a press conference and said, "This is our pragmatic style of playing." Now, I labeled that section of the season hoofball, which is basically it wasn't really pragmatic because all we were doing, and all the only reason we were winning is because one of our players would randomly score a goal, like Bruno Fernandes would score from 40 yards, or Scott McTominay went through this period where he was doing rescue missions from the last minute. But this was just kind of random. It wasn't really a style of play. There wasn't players knowing where to be and how to find space and how to carve out chances. And again, this was a big answer to, oh crap, we've got 6-7 injuries. Luke Shaw's injured, Martinez is injured. I don't know how to build up from the back. Let's scrap it all and hope for the best. Somehow they beat Brentford, they beat Sheffield United. I think that this is during the winter. They beat Fulham, they beat Luton, and then they beat Everton 3-0 as well. And this was where they got 5 wins. But I can't pinpoint to you why that happened. It was just mainly relying on big players getting big moments. Then we moved to, I mean, I'm going section by section here, but hey, what the hell? Let's go for it. Then we moved to, there's still problems in terms of building up. There's still in possession problems. So when you choose to scrap what you were doing in possession, which was last season, this team was very good at breaking down low blocks. It was very good at breaking down teams that were in the bottom half. It's a large reason why they finished in the top 4. This season, because you don't have Shaw, because you don't have Martinez, and because Eriksen is too tired and Casemiro isn't who he was, you don't get that anymore. Add in the fact that you have completely scrapped it, and you are now just saying, okay, boys, just go out there and hope that we kind of score. That's kind of been what's happened in possession. January happened, and he moves to this bizarrely chaotic, bizarrely fun for neutral style of you attack, we attack. We're going to go punch for punch. We're going to try and play 4 transitions. We're going to try and basically outscore teams. That kind of worked. We beat Wolves, we beat Villa, we beat Luton, but it's not really a sustainable way to play football, and it's definitely not a way to build on anything. So it's been a range of different things, but to sum it up, I would say it's all been in response to the injuries. Every single little myriad, every little section of the Man United season has been a response to the injuries. There's different things I think that he could have done, but we are kind of where we are. And I think that they probably deserve to be lower, Man United, to be honest with you.
I just have a question to ask.
Yeah.
So, Eric Ten Hag has obviously been at Ajax, a team which has like a certain style of play. They're known for playing a particular brand of football. And a lot of pundits say, why isn't he able to bring that to United? So even last season, I absolutely agree with you when you say that United, they were good at playing these bottom half sides, especially at
Yeah.
home. They were really strong.
That's what we saw.
Yeah, but in terms of like building that style of play, like when I see like Arteta right from season 1, results didn't always go, but you could see that there was a clear style of play, like right from the start in terms of how he wanted to play. But my question to you is, like, to what extent is Ten Hag to blame to not be able to implement that style? Because you speak about United players having moments like Bruno Fernandes, for example. Do you think that eventually United will have to move on from a player like that who maybe thrives in chaos as opposed to, when your team is controlling the game?
I don't think that Fernandes is a player that United need to move on from. Because, again, I'll say it again, you look at what happened last season and how this team lost 6 league games after 7th of August till the end of the season, after losing the first 2. Or 7, perhaps. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. And Fernandes was thriving in that system. Ten Hag's football has never been, at Man United at least, it's never been this is our way. It's been adaptive. It's been different ways of playing. That adaptation worked last season, where it was okay. We're going to break down teams that sit in a low block in the bottom half by using our fullbacks to underlap and overlap. We're going to use the 3-1-6, and we're going to find space that way. Against big teams, what we're going to do is compact the middle and use transitions. It was different. It was adaptive. That's always what Ten Hag has been. Now, if you take it as though the morale is low, there's tons of injuries, the team isn't winning, and each style that you're trying isn't working, but you're still trying to be adaptive and you're still going for different things. You're still trying to sometimes press. You're still trying to sometimes be a low block. Then it's not really going to work. What I would say is I'm not sure if Ten Hag was to stay, if he would play this type of football next season. I don't think he would. And I think the trick is there's new ownership coming in. Ineos are coming in, and they normally when new owners come in, they want their man. Do you know what I mean? But the club United has been over the last few years since Ferguson has left. It's been okay. A manager comes in, 1 or 2 seasons of buzz, and then completely collapsed. Do United want to do that again? I'm not sure they do. So what he might have going for him in this summer is the manager market is kind of dry. He knows the place inside out. Last season was actually still kind of good. And if you go for the third season where you're probably not going to be in Europe, you might get to see the style of play or football improve. And also, I think the players are still with him. The players are still playing for him. And that you can't say that for every manager, for every United manager in the past, I think.
And if you win the FA Cup final, that could be
Yeah.
like insane, because it would be like 2 seasons, 2 trophies, despite being very bad, and that can also buy him some time.
Fingers crossed, touch wood. But it doesn't look very good right now, and I don't like the idea of going into a cup final with Casemiro and Evans as a centre back partnership.
Yeah, no, it's especially the center back injuries have been pretty tricky for you guys recently. I mean, on the subject of kind of the the C-suite changes, right? The executive incomings like Omar Barada and Dan Ashworth. I don't think that's been announced yet, but Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox. Obviously with Ineos in charge now, that's going to be kind of a new direction recruitment wise, and probably in terms of just the identity of the club as a whole. Do you think that they're more likely to, stick with Ten Hag and see if they can implement these changes with him in charge? Or do you think they're going to try to do like a clean start and bring in a new manager? I know Southgate is in particular rumored to be someone that United are looking at.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that on the basis of this season, there isn't much evidence to or much of a reason to keep Ten Hag. If you were doing it just on this season, adding to the fact that when, like, with Ineos coming in, they're going to be looking at everything with a magnifying glass, right? Like everything. When new company owners take over, they're having a full overview of absolutely everything. So, the microphone and the spotlight has been on Ten Hag this season, and utterly he has completely failed with it. But whether you like it or not, I think this is the most league games we've, the stats and the historic stats come out, and there's every sort of week or every 2 weeks there's a new historic record broken in a negative way for Ten Hag. So there is benefits to keeping him there, but the negatives are certainly outweighing the positives right now. And I don't think he's going to stay because he's just made a complete mess up of the season. It's been a complete mess. We're 8th in the league, probably going to miss out on the European spots, and there isn't too much to be positive about. I'm not being the fan. I'm not being the fan either who's saying everything's crap, everything's negative. I'm sick of it. There genuinely isn't too much to be positive about this season. Maybe some emergence of youth. I can't point to certain games that Ten Hag has tried to do certain things that have worked and go, okay, he can build on that. There's been a couple of things that have worked. For instance, whenever he wants to turn a game over, all of a sudden he wants the team to press in tandem. So right now, some of the problems are it's just the forward line that presses, and he doesn't push the midfield up. He doesn't push the defense up. When he wants to turn the result over, so Liverpool in the cup final or Aston Villa in the second half, when he wants to do it, it's normally when we're at home and the crowd's roaring. When he does that, that tends to work. He hasn't done that enough. And I don't think I foresee him doing that in the future. So to answer your question, I don't see Ten Hag staying under Ineos, because if the magnifying glass is on you on a season like this, it's an utter failure, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting to see what United do moving forward, because I do agree. I think this season has really just been a wash for United,
Yeah.
right?
But also,
know,
like, I wouldn't even want, like, I kind of don't even want him to go, because it's like, I don't feel as though in football, modern day, managers are given enough time at all. In what
Mhm.
kind of job do you have, like, oh, a year and we look at your results? Oh, it's rubbish. Like, there's probably a lot of people in the world who would have been sacked if, like, their companies judge them in the same way football clubs do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want Ten Hag to go, mainly because I can't be bothered with another reset, another new manager, because that manager is going to come in and he's going to say, right, I want this player, I want that player, and I want to play it this way. And we've already kind of had that in the last, I don't know, since Ferguson left. We've had like 4 or 5 different managers. So I kind of
Yeah.
don't even want that myself. But it doesn't feel like he's given Ineos much of a choice on the basis of this season.
But also, I guess the fans come into it, right? In football, like I think that influences why sometimes football clubs make the decision to change. Like
It's a
I'm
good point,
quite
yeah.
sure that when Arsene Wenger was also the manager of Arsenal, like to be honest, for a lot of years they didn't care too much about fan sentiment, but it got really bad towards the end, to the point where the Emirates Stadium was like empty in many, like there were so many empty seats, and that's not a good look. And the same happened to Unai Emery as well. Like in his final game against Frankfurt, like the Emirates was empty and the Frankfurt away fans were sitting where the home fans would normally sit, because like nobody wanted to come. So stuff like that can make a club act as, I think, as opposed to just being based on what the manager has done. But Arteta obviously, like, he bought himself time. I think in some ways it was a blessing in disguise that he was managing during COVID, when there were no fans in the
Yeah.
stadium, and we were very bad. We were like 15th in the Premier League table. We were 20th in chances created after like 18 games that season. Like it was really bad.
It was bad,
And
yeah. It was
it
bad. I
was like
think
if you lost
I went back and
Chelsea,
looked last night. It was like I think you lost 8 games during that period, and he survived it.
yeah. And if he lost to Chelsea, I think he might have well been out. But he won. He played some young players. Smith Rowe made a comeback. Martinelli, Saka, 3, like 2 of them were 19, one of them was 20. And then yeah, from that it went one way up. So I think sometimes also a project might need like this moment of change where
Yeah.
the switch flips basically.
Yeah, it's really it's why the Southgate rumors are baffling to me in a way, because like you said, a lot of managers don't get the time that they need to properly affect change in their position. I also do think a lot of managers maybe get too much time. Um,
Mm.
I do feel like sometimes people point to Arteta and say, "Well, he got all the time in the world. Why don't I get all the time in the world?" And I don't think it's a one for one. But Southgate doesn't make sense to me, because effectively what you're doing is you're starting a brand new era. You're ushering Ten Hag out the door. You're bringing in a guy who isn't really a tactical mastermind per se. He's
Mm.
more of a culture guy, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to bring in a guy who's going to get the team together. You're going to make some signings, and he's going to kind of integrate everyone together and have like a feel good factor around Old Trafford, which is nice, which is I think that's something that United could really use these days. But 2-3 years down the line, when you guys need to take that step from being, a team that's finding its footing, that's developing its ability, to a team that's competing for things, Southgate's not the guy for that. So, is the plan to just fire him and then bring in another guy and kind of restart that process all over again? I don't know. That's what I
Yeah.
would foresee if you brought in Southgate. But oh, where'd Darnish go?
You mentioned Southgate, and he was like, "I've had enough of this."
I mean, it'd be very difficult to go from managing an international team to managing a club like Man United, where unfortunately I think you can be a very good tracksuit manager, but you unfortunately have to deal with the soap opera side of things, the whole like mental side of things, and the whole of I got to keep this dressing room on board. And they used to call Bayern Munich Hollywood FC, and I think Man United are Hollywood FC now. There's always a new problem to deal with every week, so you have to deal with that side as well as being the tracksuit manager guy. So I think that's why he's been sort of touted for the job. Man management wise, he took on the poison chalice job of England and then turned things around. Because you got to remember, the England job before Southgate was not what it is now. Like people yawn, and they get through in the group stages. Like everything was a problem before. There's so much heat in the England camp. I think one thing he's done is pretty much normalize the standard and make it a very good place to go, and the players love going there. So I think that's why he's been touted as that. If he took on one poison chalice job, made it good, he could also come to United and do the same. But I'm not sure about the tactical side.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think you're starting to see that even with England, right?
Yeah,
Where
I agree.
you now you've turned the team into a collective that's playing for each other, that's playing for the badge. But now you're hitting a point where you have Saka and Bellingham and Rice and Foden and all these world class players in one team, and you really need to do something with them. So I think after the Euros, I think, or at least fingers crossed, England go for a guy who can really take them to the next step. So this might be Southgate really getting pigeonholed into this kind of role, or kind of a caretaker role for all intents and
Yeah.
purposes, where he comes in and just kind of gets a club or gets a team on their feet for a couple of years, and then kind of steps aside for someone to make that final push in terms of high level execution of tactics and winning strategies and things of that nature. So I just thought it was an interesting rumor that's been going on.
Yeah, me too. I think it's interesting. But I would say, just to finish on the whole Ineos and manager thing, in general, when new ownerships come in football, they rarely keep the same guy. Like they get in their guy, or the guy that they think is going to take them forward, if that makes sense. It might sound comical, but I'm thinking of Blackburn Rovers for some reason. When Sam Allardyce was there, they got rid of Sam Allardyce. They brought in their own guy. They got relegated, and now they've not been back to the Premier League ever since.
It was the Venky's group, wasn't it?
Venky's, yeah. Lots of chicken jokes back then. Remember,
Yeah.
they made all these chicken jokes. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Those were the days, man. Those were the days.
Yeah. Sorry to any Blackburn fans watching, though. I'm not sure why they would be.
Yeah, I unfortunately was, or maybe fortunately, was not around for that time. But
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of also something that I kind of think about with Arsenal, where the Kroenkes didn't really have full control until about 2018, right? And correct me, Sash, if I got that wrong. But they brought in Emery, and I don't think Emery was really ever the Kroenkes guy per se, which is why he was never really backed, perhaps the way he should have been. And Emery's gone on.
Football goes at such an alarming rate. I forgot for a second Emery was at Arsenal.
Yeah. No,
I mean, he was. I mean, and I knew that and stuff, but it just, you know what I mean? There's there's so many things that happen in football. You go, God, I just forgot that happened.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the Watford game, I think I also would have forgotten that Emery coached Arsenal at one point, and and the Europa League final. But he's gone on to have a great career at Villa as well. So he's by no means a
it all
bad
worked out
manager.
for the best.
Yeah,
for everybody involved.
Yeah.
For Arsenal,
Um,
because he beat us in this run in again, and he might be the reason why we don't win the league, which
I
is
think he's
just
beaten us 3 times since he left, which is a
yeah.
little embarrassing. But so yeah, I think it's just really interesting, given the fact that obviously United are one of our historic rivals, and I do think it's it's always interesting to kind of just take a second and stop and maybe look outside of your own club at what other teams are doing, and I think that's a really useful way to inform yourself, especially when it comes to, again, teams that are historic rivals. But so we obviously have a match coming up on Sunday. Um, we'll turn this back a little bit towards Arsenal, since it's been this week in Manchester United so far. But um, we will we have a match coming up on Sunday, and Arsenal go to Old Trafford needing a win to maintain pressure on Manchester City, and United also will probably need a win to maintain any hopes of staying alive in the fight for European places. So both teams will be really motivated. I think United just generally are motivated to beat us at Old Trafford anyway. Um, but Sash, I'll get your take on this first. What do you expect to see from United on Sunday in terms of maybe lineup and also just the way that they're going to attack us?
So I don't see any big surprises from United in terms of the lineup. I think they would play Rashford, I think, against us because he has a really good record against Arsenal and he seems to do very well against Ben White 1v1. So if Rashford's available, I think they would play him. But apart from that, I don't think there's going to be any huge surprise selection. But I think I expect it to go like how the recent United Arsenal games have gone. Arsenal have a lot of the ball, make chances, and United, they would aim to play two passes and hope that they can breach our back four. I actually feel like it's been an age since the last time Arsenal and United faced each other at Old Trafford. So you have to go all the way back to 2022 in September it was. So I had just moved to Berlin then and I was watching this game. Martinelli's goal gets disallowed. I don't know how Sir Alex still has Howard Webb in his pocket, I think, but I don't know. So that decision is gone. And then United come and Anthony scores his debut goal against us. And everyone was like, oh, Anthony, he's the guy. Look at him. And then we get counterattacked twice. Bruno and Rashford basically bypassing our entire team with just two moves. And United, I thought they destroyed us in transition that day at times. But we also created a lot of chances and we were not decisive. But what I expect is a similar sort of game in that sense, where United would try to play a few passes to hit us on the transition. But what I see happening this time is Arsenal actually being decisive with their actions. And I think we paid 100 million for Declan Rice, especially for games like this, when you have teams that can pick you off in these counter transitions. So we have those legs in midfield to stop what United are going to try to do. And I expect Arsenal to dominate the game. And I think the only circumstance under which Arsenal don't end up winning that game is if we are wasteful, like the way Liverpool were some weeks ago. Like Liverpool should have finished United off at halftime. It should have been 4-0, 5-0. They didn't do that. They made a mistake. And then a guy like Bruno Fernandes, he has the quality to punish you. And then Kobe Mino as well. I'm sure Dharnish will have some positive words to say about him. He also scored a phenomenal goal. So if you give United a sniff, they can punish you because they have some match winners in their team. So we just have to be a bit wary of that and not play with too much like emotion and instead, just focus on what's in front of us. And if we just do the basics well, I think we will win that match.
Yeah, I think that's always the thing that annoys me about when we go to Old Trafford. We don't play United at Old Trafford. We play Old Trafford there. And I think the players really just get overwhelmed by the occasion a lot of the time that we go there. And also just in terms of matchups, I think it really plays in United's hands a lot of the time where United are, I think, even at their worst, very capable of hitting teams on the counter. And that's not always something that we're prepared to do, especially if, like I expect us to do, we play party in midfield. on Sunday. I just think it's way easier to get to us in transition when party's at 6. But Darnish, what do you expect from both United and from Arsenal on Sunday? And I guess how do you think the end result is going to go there?
I can't see anything else but an Arsenal win, to be honest. Mood is on the floor. Injuries are plenty. I don't even know if it's. I think it might be Casemiro and Evans again at centre back. You mentioned last season. I think that we were actually. I'm probably in the minority here, but last season the plan worked in terms of the point was to limit as much space as possible in the middle of the pitch and then hit Arsenal on transitions, and it worked. But so much has changed since then. Even at the start of this season at the Emirates, I don't think you created many clear-cut chances against us at all. But I found it interesting in that game that Arteta was pretty wary of the transitions. So, for instance, he didn't press. Normally, Arsenal are good with a high press. In that game at the Emirates, he didn't press, and I think the majority of that game, especially the first half, was like watching United pass the ball side to side.
To the centre backs, yeah.
Yeah, and it was sort of waiting for. Sometimes we got out of the press, but it was very rare. I think the wingers pretty much doubled up on our wingers, doubled up on your wingers, and I thought it was a good defensive performance. We were pretty unlucky to not win and to lose, but so much has changed since then. I don't expect much from this game at all. Arsenal, quite frankly, are one of the best teams in the world at this moment in time. They can hit you with set pieces. They can hit you with Odegaard and Havertz in the half spaces. They can hit you with Saka and Martinelli on the wings. They create plenty of chances. They're probably one of the best teams in the world without the ball. They will. The thing that I keep wondering in my head about is whether you press us or not, because that will indicate what Arteta makes of this Man United team at this moment in time. Because last season, the game at the Emirates, I feel like he afforded a lot of respect to United by not pressing. But this is a team that you can definitely press. I know that there's nervousness in the Arsenal camp because it's Man United away and they're fighting for a title, and there's generally just nerves are up at this point of the season. But I can't see anything but an Arsenal win really in those games. Even when I think we've grabbed results in big games randomly this season. We got 2 draws against Liverpool, and we beat them in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup. In the big games, we've actually been okay, but I expect to go for a mid-block and play for transitions really with like Rashford up front. But actually, having said that, I think maybe Rashford's injured, so yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will actually hinge on whether or not Rashford plays, because I think that's the biggest threat, in behind for you guys, especially. I think Ben White is, pretty top-notch defender. I don't think he's our best defender, but I do think he's pretty underrated generally in terms of his defensive one-on-one qualities. But Rashford always seems to have his number when we go up against United. So I think that is the thing that I'm worried about the most.
I think Fernandes might be back. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and
But
Fernandes
he didn't
is
play
always
against Palace.
Yeah, and he's always good for an additional level of threat. He's a good long range scorer as well. So Fernandes will be a player worthy of our respect, right, when we play against you guys. But yeah, it's just it'll be interesting to see because like we've all said at this point, United's very depleted. I have no idea who you guys are going to play at center back against
Probably
us.
Casemiro and Evans.
Yeah,
probably.
So
if not Casemiro and Evans, Maguire and Evans, which is I think it's the partnership startlingly that has started the most games this season.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we've had 14. I did a graphic on it yesterday. I made a graphic yesterday, but we've had 14 or 15 different centre back partnerships this season. So I think they played the most games together, Maguire and Evans.
Yeah. Which 14, 15 different starting center back partnerships is not exactly what you'd call stable, unfortunately. But yeah, if it's Casemiro and Evans, I do think we will attempt to press.
Yeah.
Because especially if
I think you
Rashford
should
isn't
press
playing.
anywhere. I think you should press anyway, because this is not a big problem with this team last season was when pressed in build-up, they don't know what to do. That still happens this season.
Yeah. And also just, Casemiro and Evans don't particularly strike me as the kinds of center backs. Well, I mean, Casemiro's not even a center back, but they don't strike me as the kinds of players on the ball where, if you have Odegaard running at you and then you have, Havertz kind of curving his run to force you out to a certain direction. They don't strike me as the kind of players who are able to deal with that as soundly as the likes of Saliba and John Stones and other center backs like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think we can force some errors in that regard, and then in midfield you're going to have Rice and Havertz, Rice and Party, also kind of there to to win the second balls, to win duels, kind of just overrun. I think it'll probably be Fernandez, Mainu, and maybe McTominay. Who do you think you guys will play in midfield?
I think it was Ericsson and Mainu in midfield against
Eriksen.
Palace.
Yeah.
So it could be Ericsson and Mainu. Because
Okay.
just on the basis of injuries, again, I think everyone is that injured. The bench against Palace was hilarious. It was just the youth team and Amrabat. So
I was going to
was
say
it.
Amrabat was the only name I recognized on the bench.
Yeah, that was it. A bunch of kids, the rest of them.
Yeah. So, I definitely think it is one of those things where if again, Rashford's not available, if the center backs are who we think they're going to be, I think Arteta will feel safe enough to press hard, to press high, to press aggressively. And then from there, I just think we do have the quality in midfield off the ball and, as well on the ball to, hopefully get into the final third on a regular basis and attack United's goal. But, it's just one of those things where we play as if there's a pentagram underneath Old Trafford's pitch. I just
some voodoo.
Yeah, exactly. So
some voodoo.
I feel like Old Trafford and White Hart Lane are those two games for us where just things happen, and it's never really about.
I think the COVID season was the last time you won there, Aubameyang.
Yeah.
One in
Ironically,
16.
our worst team. It was our worst team probably in many years, and that's the only season that we won.
And
it
It was a horrible game. It was a horrible game to watch. And I remember just thinking, God, this sucks. I want to go eat dinner.
and that was a penalty as well. So
yeah, it was the Solskjaer days. Vibes FC.
Yeah, but yeah, I think in our last 16 trips to Old Trafford, we've won one time. So
really,
yeah,
16. So what? 2008, Adebayor, 2-1.
Yeah, I think so.
It was 2006, I think, not 2008. Like 2006.
Wow, really? I think okay. So Ronaldo was still there.
Yeah, was the Henry header, right?
No,
that was away, but that was at the Emirates. Yeah.
Oh, that was at the Emirates. Yeah,
that was at the Emirates. I'm remembering Adebayor because he's I mean, I know you guys may not want to remember, but he did used to play for you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not the ex-player. Sorry?
He made sure we will remember him forever, but not for what he did for us.
Adebayor probably is not. No, he's definitely not the ex-player I have the most beef with currently.
Who is it?
For me personally, it's Gallus. I feel like
Why?
I've been seeing.
What's wrong with? He was an emotional man. All right.
Yeah, but I feel like I see Gallus talking a lot about Arsenal these days, and he's spoken a few times on Odegaard and the qualities that he has to be a captain, and you're just saying they're just like, do you really want to talk about qualities worthy of a captain right now?
It's just bad vibes, basically.
Yeah. And also just I'll never forgive the club for giving a center back the number 10 shirt. But yeah, it'll be an interesting game all in all. And I think United will be really up for it no matter the team that they put out there, that they're able to put out there. So, we'll just see what happens. But Dharnish, I wanted to get your thoughts just on the title race and even further than that, just kind of the state of the Premier League generally in terms of, how it does look likely that Manchester United or Manchester City are going to go on, win their fourth in a row, win I think they're sixth in the last seven. Um, so is that a state of the Premier League that you're happy with as long as it isn't United winning? Or
I don't really care about who wins this. I mean, secretly, I say I don't care. I win, but like we're playing them and everything. In
yeah,
terms of, I think City winning, it'll be four in a row, right?
yeah,
Four in a row. So Arteta, Klopp, Solskjaer.
I think so. Yeah,
Is that is that right?
in terms of like managers who finished
Yeah.
second. Yeah,
Or was it Klopp?
no, the
So
last two would be Arteta,
Yeah,
and then
Arteta, Klopp, and then I think yeah, okay, 4 years, COVID, yeah,
yeah,
Solskjaer, the
yeah,
random one, yeah, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer coming second. What I would say about that is I know it looks bad for people who say City will win four in a row, but it's not like it's been easy. Against Klopp, it was literally I think they were 20 minutes away from winning the title on the final day, and Steven Gerrard and Aston Villa collapsed. Arsenal should have won last season. You guys didn't. I'm not going to say the B word. Not going to say the B word. But you should have won the title last season. You didn't. And now again, what is it? Game week 36. Game week 37. It's still all to play for. It's probably going to go down to the last day. Even if City do win their fourth in a row, it's not like it's not a cakewalk. It's not like people have been making out like, oh, I'm so tired of them winning, but they've worked hard for it. Like it's been difficult, um, and I think everybody's just waiting for this dark cloud of the Chargers to um,
Sink
basically
them.
I don't know what the word is, but we're all just waiting to see what happens with this court case so it can finally just leave, because it is hanging over each trophy that they do win. In terms of the state of the Premier League, that it's not as bad as what people are making out. I think City they've been in the race whilst other teams have as well. I just think that other teams have dropped the ball. Did you say, sorry, the state of Arsenal as well going forward?
Well, yeah. Just how do you feel about? I mean, yeah, we can tack that in there, but also just how would you characterize Arsenal's odds currently in the title race, and
I'm
how
not a
close
betting
are
man.
they to City?
Very close. Very close. I mean, you should have won it last year. I keep saying you should have won it last season. I think you were
Yeah,
like 3 or 4 games away. Southampton happened. West Ham happened. Liverpool happened. A Saliba injury happened. But you've been, I think, since the turn of the year, you've been terrific. I don't know what was said on that little trip to Dubai and what was said to the players, but you've been the best team in the league this season, with and without the ball. Guardiola said in a press conference the other day, he said, "I didn't think we'd get here with the way that we've played this season. Like City are just because of the amount of ball they keep, they kind of always have games under control, but they've definitely lacked penetration this season. Definitely." I think even he's aware of that. Um,
You
so,
know what's insane about that? Like
mm,
all of us are saying City have declined this season, but if they win their remaining games, they'll finish with 2 points more than what they managed last season, which is insane if
yeah,
you think
yeah,
about
but it's control. If you control the ball for 80% of the game,
it. Mm.
there's going to be as little stupid things happening in a football game, which I think is what Guardiola is all about. I want control and I want as little stupid things to happen, but stupid things do happen in football. But in terms of your chances, I think it kind of does hinge on that Tottenham game. Um, Having said that, it does hinge on the Fulham game. Anything can happen on the last day. I want it to go to the last day, um, at least, which I don't know what that means about this weekend, whether you beat us or not. But I think you would deserve to win the title if you won it this season. You've been the best team.
yeah, yeah. I'm holding a little bit of hope out for West Ham, just because.
For David Moyes' finest hour of
Yeah,
remember
His
how good
travel.
I am.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. His last goal his last game for West Ham, just goes out with the bang to help
Mhm.
hand the title to two former
To Arsenal,
captains.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Let's see.
that's
I also wouldn't. I think Fulham are the best bottom half team for me. Ooh, The camera completely flipped there. The best team in the bottom half for me are Fulham. Like always when I watch Fulham, I go, I love I love certain things that I didn't know that I loved about them.
I think Fulham have been a really underrated side this season. I like a lot
Absolutely,
of their players. And Marcus Silva's a good coach, but I
especially if they lost their best player and you never hear about it because that's how well they replaced him.
yeah, yeah. I think that one striker they have, Munoz. Munoz, yeah.
Munoz, yeah. Instead of
Yeah,
Mitrovic.
Munoz. Munoz I think has been really good for them. I'm probably more of a Palhinha fan than most Arsenal fans are.
Missed the
Um,
tackle.
yeah. Well, we got linked to him earlier in the season, like in the January transfer window, and I actually was not against it at all, really. And obviously, Iwobi, a player or that a lot of us have a soft spot for. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of talent in there. But Marco Silva is winless in 12 against Pep, which is not
Yeah.
the best sign.
I mean, a
So
draw would be okay for you guys.
it would, yeah.
But it
Yeah.
must be nice to have these things to look forward to. I watch games and I just wait for them to finish.
Well, you know what? This is you've really been on it in terms of the transitions today, I have to say, because that's kind of the next thing that we wanted to wrap up with is just kind of when do you think we'll have the big the big Arsenal United rivalry back in it's at its peak where it's just us duking it out for
That
titles
was good.
again.
That was
Yeah.
good, wasn't it? The
Those are
3-2
fun
was
times.
good last season. The 3-2 was good. I thought this is it now. Well, there's always a special twinge of spice to this rivalry just because I think it was the rivalry that brought through sort of the new generation of the Premier League. Fergie
Yeah.
hated Wenger. Pizza was thrown. Words were said. Allegedly, pizza was thrown. When do I think this new rivalry happen? Football things happen very, very quickly in football. If it's Tuchel in the summer, which I think it might be, or it could be De Zerbi, then I think that we might get to see the rivalry in the next 2-3 years. When Man City get relegated next year for the Chargers.
I will have a party and everyone will be invited if that happens.
I don't know.
We need to
Let's see.
celebrate the title if that happens.
It could be sooner rather than later. If it's Tuchel, because I think he's an underrated manager, which we might get to see tonight.
Yeah, I have seen that link for you guys, and I think Tuchel would be a really sound decision because that's a guy you can build around, right?
Yeah.
As long as you don't make the mistake that Bowley did and start stepping on his toes and kind of butting your nose into what
Yeah.
he's trying to do. But I think Tuchel's a guy
I
who
don't
can
think that
really.
he's had a big job where he's messed it up, which is very
No.
hard to do as an elite manager. Dortmund was very good. Mainz to Dortmund was like his shut up. PSG again, Champions League final, Liga title. Went to Chelsea, won a Champions League. Went to Bayern Munich. Okay, Bayern Leverkusen are unbeaten, but he's in a Champions League semi-final. It's very hard to consistently go to these big jobs and kind of make a good account of yourself each time. And also, I wanted to quickly say they always talk about him not being a good man manager and he's too angry. I think Chelsea was the calmest I saw him. Like Chelsea was the calmest I saw him, and I didn't really hear too many complaints from the players in terms of reports. He also guided Chelsea through that whole situation where the takeover was happening and there was like no fans in the stadium for like 2-3 weeks, and their funds were getting cut, and I think they were making jokes one week because they were like, you might not get the players and everybody else might not get to travel in first class airplanes, and he was making jokes saying, I'll fuck it, man, I'll get the minibus and we'll drive together. So I think that part is really underrated in terms of Tuchel, so I would take him.
Yeah, and I think it's just worth looking at this Bayern team in particular, where yes, they haven't won the Bundesliga this season. Although I think it's safe to say we're looking at one of the most freakishly historic sides in the Bundesliga, ever, or just in European football generally. With what
At the
they're
moment in time.
on the cusp of doing, but I just think, if you look at what he's doing with Bayern, the way he's been able to rally the troops and get them, fit and firing and focused on getting something out of the season. We're talking about guys like Kane and Musiala and Sane and Gnabry. You know, these are really big names, big personalities. So I think Tuchel would be a great acquisition for United. That's a guy who could really take you guys back to the level that you need to be. And you know, De Zerbi, I like De Zerbi too. I mean, both guys I would take over Southgate pretty handily. But Sash, how are you feeling about the title race? And you know, has this past weekend really you know, made you feel more encouraged about things, or is it about the same as it was last week?
Yeah, so I will finish with what I said at the start, which is, Arsenal, they can be very proud of how they have done this season. 36 game weeks in, we are right there. So this is all we can ask for as fans. Now we just need to enjoy it. Go ahead, look at the games that we have left. Play, enjoy. Don't think about the title. And that's when I think some magic happens, because the moment we're like, oh, City should drop, City should drop, City should drop, you watch the games, you get stressed. Like I see it on Twitter, of course, social media, social media. But after every City victory, even if it's against a team they're expected to win like Wolves, I see this huge discourse on Twitter of, oh, Arsenal, they're out, they're this. I'm like, no, just let's wait till game week 38. Let's do what is in front of us and do it well. Let's beat United at Old Trafford. And then after that, let's go and beat Everton at home. And then what is meant to be will be meant to be. So let's enjoy. That's what I would say.
For sure. And you know, I just think we're in a really nice moment right now as Arsenal fans, that we're probably pushing City until the final day of the season for the Premier League title. And yeah, let's see what we can make happen. But we will leave it there. And you know, hopefully we'll be back to you after a win at Old Trafford that the three of us really seem to want, including Dharnish. But Dharnish, it's been so great talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming on. There's about 2,000 of you watching currently, and I'm sure plenty more listening on the streaming platforms. So you know, please do follow Dharnish at Dharnish Iqbal on Twitter. And Dharnish, where can everyone find your work?
Just in my bio or just on my Twitter. So I write for a range of different websites, but I will be producing weekly threads and weekly tactical analysis threads.
Sounds good. And I can you know, testify. I can testify. Sorry, I need more caffeine. I can testify as to the fact that Dharnish's threads are, you know, really spot on. I really do enjoy them. So please do check those out. You can follow me at Shamsdale. You can follow Sash at LT Arsenal. You can follow the pod at This Week Arsenal. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave the 5-star review. Really does help out. And until then, we will be back to you, hopefully, after a win at Manchester United. But until then, be a gooner, not a goon. And we will talk to you soon. Until then, take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Maybe we'll have a good surprise for you.